Welcome to the Plant Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and gently relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life now enable you to enjoy these same health and well-being benefits at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com when you quote code PLANT24 on ordering. That's PLANT24 on ordering.
So, guys, hi. Well, with waiting lists for allotments usually stretching to about 14 years, it's really not as easy to grow your own these days, especially if you're in an apartment or just with a very, very small balcony. But there's a very exciting project that I want to discuss today. It's a space and community for people to grow their own grub. And they'll be provided with all they need to start growing their own. So I've got Ed of Roots Allotments on the podcast today, and I want to find out all about this really, really fascinating project. Hey, Ed, how you doing?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing really good today. How about yourself?
Very good, yeah. So tell me about yourself, first of all, and then let's get on to what Roots is and how you're making allotments accessible for everyone.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I sort of discovered the magic of growing over lockdown.
Okay, like many people.
Like so many of us.
Yeah.
It seems like we get shut down in our houses and we think, oh my gosh, we need nature.
Yeah.
But I sort of, I was inspired because I went to a community talk by Charles Dowding about no dig. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't stop writing notes when I was at that meeting. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, I want to start a 1 acre market garden. He said, have you ever grown anything before?
Okay.
I was like, no. And he was like, well, good luck with that. That was the ambition at the time. And then I saw the queues at the supermarkets just before lockdown was about to come in, and it had me worried. I was living with my grandma at the time. I'd just quit living in London, and after working in the advertising industry for 7 years, where I was made to work on fast fashion and other not so climate friendly projects, whilst also going to climate protests at the weekend. And there was just this sort of very unhappy me inside. So that's what led me to Devon. And I said to my grandma, I said, Nan, what would you do if you couldn't get your food tomorrow? And I've seen people fighting over toilet paper. So what could happen next?
Yeah.
And she didn't really have an answer for me. So I said to her, you've got a bit of space in the garden.
Yeah.
Why don't I start growing vegetables on it and see where we go? And I mean, it wasn't the 1 acres that I was sort of hoping to achieve to start off with, but it was 36 square meters, and it got me going. It got me into a good place. And over lockdown, I just, even though the world felt like it was totally imploding on itself, just being able to get outside, get your hands in the soil, connect with the cycle of life and death that you are exposed to when you're growing, it makes you appreciate everything and the world that we live in. So I managed to sort of start to repair some of that damage that I'd done to myself from working in advertising. And I felt like, even though I was growing on 36 square meters, I still felt like I was doing my little bit and starting to understand certain issues with the industrial agriculture practice that happens and what no dig can do to sort of counteract that sort of thing. So it was this massive journey of discovery for me over lockdown, and honestly felt like I'd found my calling. And you kind of know that when your brain just absorbs everything like a sponge, you're like, wow, okay, I can remember spacings. I'm someone who can't do mathematics, but I can remember spacings. And I'm just like, okay, my brain's onto something here. So after that crazy period of lockdowns, I actually had to move back to London to try and find some more work, which was really sad, leaving the lovely rural place of Devon where I grew up and sort of putting myself back into that urban environment. But I was arriving back in London with a fresh mindset and the ambitions to grow more. Now, I moved back to a second floor flat. My neighbour below me never used their garden and wasn't up for sharing their garden. So,
that's a shame. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty gutting because, like, I always see they just never used it, and I was like, oh, that could be a little herb patch, or I could grow a few vegetables in there. Like, we're only talking 10 meters squared for a garden, so it's not big. But
so many people don't use the gardens or even go outside, and I can't relate to that. I just love being outside.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, even on Saturday in the -2 degrees, I was up in Birmingham at our root site, and we were making bird feeders, and that was cold, but it was rewarding at the same time. So yeah, I was looking for a place to grow. I was hanging out with my friends Will and Christian, who I set roots up with, and I was just sort of explaining to them just how much of a transformative time I'd had with growing. And I said, well, maybe if we switched up what we put our time and energy into, and if we didn't go to the pub every week, we could replace that with allotment time or growing time. And they were really keen to get an allotment as a group of friends and sort of do it as a project. And that's what led us to discovering the waiting lists. And in Lambeth, it was 28 years. And we were like, oh my gosh, right. We might not even live in London by then, and who knows, we might not even be friends. So it's a long period of time to sort of forecast when you're young. You know you're going to be moving around. You don't know where the next 3 years are going to be. So I think a lot of young people in that same mental state where they go, well, what's the point in even applying for an allotment in my local borough? I don't know whether I'm even going to be in this city in a few years' time. So it's like the accessibility of a green space is such a tough thing to come across. And then we started looking all up and down the country, and we were just like, wow, this is an issue everywhere. And there's like over 170,000 people on the waiting list. I think it averages out about around like 15 to 18 years if you add them all up and work that out. Greenpeace have just done a really fantastic report on all of the waiting list data, and they managed to achieve a lot more than what we could, because we were just three guys sending emails to the council, and some of them got back to us. I think we got a 40% success rate on getting answers. So then, we like sort of, Will is a farmer's son, and Christian, he comes from an entrepreneurial background. So they'd listened to everything that I'd explained. I said I'd done 5 months of research beforehand to work out what seeds and tools and compost and all of that sort of stuff I needed to actually make it a success. And we sort of talked about council allotments and how some of them you turn up, there's 6 foot high weeds. It might take you 30 to 50 hours to clear. And then by that time, if you're an absolute beginner, if your seeds and plants fail, that's going to really put you off the whole experience. And my belief is that growing is so magical that people shouldn't be put off the experience. And it's something that once you do discover it and you love it, it's something you probably hold with you all your life. Like this is why we have grandparents teaching their grandchildren and their children how to grow, because it's passed down through generation to generation. And once you can tap into it, or if you get that space to be able to tap into it, you just don't want to be put off. So Christian was like, why don't we just launch a service where we supply everyone with everything that they need and take that massive amount of overwhelming information out of it so people can focus on exactly what they need to do. And then Will was like, oh, well, my family farm an 8-acre field just outside the city centre of Bath. Why don't we test something out there? So that was in December 2021. And we made a website, and within 3 months it had sold out, and we were like, really? Oh my gosh, we're actually going to have to do this now. So that's kind of how Roots was created and concepted, and how me growing over lockdown led to it on quite a long journey. It was a long one. And since then, the reception for it has just been absolutely amazing. And the happiness that you can see the community members, what we can provide to them is just, it is unbelievable. When I think about sort of my my background with well-being, and I've never wanted to go to a gym. I don't want to be inside. I don't want to be somewhere which is windowless and lifeless. I want to be outside. I enjoy hiking. I enjoy being out in nature. And you know, when you're watering by hand with watering cans, when you've got your wheelbarrow full of compost shifting around, for me, that's just as good as a gym membership. So it sort of gives you that physical boost, and then just through the act of being outside and immersing yourself in nature, you get this massive mental boost as well. And we surveyed our members, and I think we got 93% of our members said that they felt a well-being increase from their experience growing vegetables. And it's just unbelievable for me to create something that can have so much positive impact for people and nature.
Tell me a bit about that site then. How many actual plots are there? And are they, did I read they're a little bit smaller than the old traditional ones? Because sometimes the bigger ones are harder to manage, aren't they?
That is it, exactly. Yeah. So we did quite a lot of research into council allotments and how they're run, and we wanted to find a way to make it accessible for your modern human being, because everyone's got to remember, allotments were invented, well, they were officially invented in like 1880, and then we got the allotment laws in 1908, and there have been some revisions on them, but I think the last time it was revised was probably like 1940s. So we're talking about a century-old model that is not reflective of how the modern day human lives their life. Now, back then, you probably had one person who went out full-time for work to support the family, and another person actually at the home supporting the family nucleus there. Now we probably have both partners working 9 to 5, probably longer hours, Monday to Friday. Our time has just been zapped in the last 60 years. So people don't have the time to put into a 10-rod plot, for instance. That is a huge amount of space to manage. And I mean, I'm on my like 4th growing season now, and a 10-rod plot that freaks me out a little bit, especially considering that you might inherit it with 6-foot-high weeds, bindweed, thistles, whatnot, everything, carpet, even like, So we've got 4 different sizes of patches. We've got a mini patch, which is our smallest patch. That is only 12 meters squared. So that is your like patio garden. That is a little bit of space for someone who's never done it before, and they're going, am I going to enjoy it? And people don't want to feel overwhelmed by the experience. So they can just manage 12 meters squared. It's not that hard. You could use square foot gardening to get the most amount of cropping from it. Then we got the next size up, which is starter patch. That is 36 square meters. So very exactly the same as what I started on over lockdown. That for me, that's what I grow on. That's what I've grown on for the last 2 years. And being a business owner or working 5-6 days a week, that is the sort of time capacity that I have to manage that space. And I found myself in summer, I usually get an organic veg box to sort of carry me over when my patch isn't providing loads of stuff. But I cancelled it for, I think it was 3 months this year, which is, for me, that's a really good feeling, knowing that I've been able to sustain myself for 3 months off a 36 square meter patch. And then in between those times, support regenerative organic agriculture. So that it's the sort of consumer choice that I would want to make, especially being like vegetarian and discovering that a third of all supermarket produce could contain up to 14 different pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, or synthetic fertilizers. I sort of had a freak out moment when I discovered it, and I went, what have I been feeding myself? Have I just been eating poison all these years and not knowing about it? It's shocking. So sort of, transitioning to more intelligent buying decisions, that means that you can control what you put in your body, because we all know food is medicine. It is the basis of all sustenance and nutrition, and the gut-brain connection with the vagus nerve. Like, these are all stuff that we're just starting to discover. And if you take it back to the source of your food, you can have control over that, and then you can nourish your mind and your body at the same time. And it's just so important to try and educate people on it, and then also give them a platform to change the way they live. Now, I'm not ever going to promise anyone that they'll become self-sustaining from a roots patch. It's, you need acres to become self-sustaining, and you probably need to live in rural Wales. But to start educating yourself on this ancestral knowledge that I feel has sort of been wiped out because of the way that globalized supermarkets behave, it's a really nice sort of positive butterfly effect that we could create. Now, how many of my members who are learning on a 36 square meter patch could go on to become market gardeners in the next 4 to 5 years and start influencing their local food chains in a really positive way? I don't know, but these are conversations that happen on a root site, and it's a really empowering feeling knowing that we can create a ripple effect, and we can talk about systemic change.
So how does it work then? People sign up almost for like a membership because they get a little bit of training as well, don't they? Because you guys are doing workshops. What does the package look like?
Yeah. Okay. So everyone gets access to the same things. It's just slightly different amounts of seeds and plants. Those are the only two things that change on your patch size. So we supply people
actually get
with
the plants as well.
Yeah. We give over 30 varieties of organic seed per year, and then over 10 varieties of organic plug plants. So if you're a beginner and you really mess it up with the sowing, we're going to give you those plug plants to put in the ground, and you are going to taste your first harvest, because that first moment where you're like, I've grown this, I've picked it, and I've eaten it, that is where everything solidifies, and the magic of growing is like, it's there to stay, in my opinion. So we give plug plants, seeds. We've got a community tool shed, so you don't need to buy any of your tools. You don't even need to buy a shed because the tools are stored in our one already. So if you want to cycle to the site, you don't need to bring anything with you. Yeah,
that's something that takes a lot of space on traditional allotments, doesn't it? So this kind of community kind of shared space is such a better way to use the ground. Yeah.
It's like the shed is amazing because we've got like a notice board in there, so our members can put their business cards up, and then we can start to support each other from our micro community. We've got a sowing timeline that we made with Charles Dowding, so you just walk up to the window and you go, oh right, I'm in February, this is exactly what I can sow, and either sow it undercover or sow directly. We've got a little QR code in there to join a WhatsApp chat, which is a digital extension of our community.
And then people learn from each other then as well. So better.
Hive mind, that's what it is. So we got our shared tools. We got in-person workshops, talks and events, which we have a sort of head office team. It's myself and Fleur. We put together the spread of events for our members. So it could be anything from like a sewing workshop where I'm going, if you want to go to the garden centre and you want to buy a module tray, you can do that. If you want to come and bring your stuff from home, bring a toilet roll, bring a yogurt pot, I'm going to show you how to accessibly sow your plants. Then 3 weeks later, we'll do a pricking out workshop. And then 4 weeks later, or whenever, we'll do a planting out workshop. And it's really important to try and educate people in person, because that's how we humans learn. We learn like that visually and getting your hands in the soil. But we also host events like yoga. So we'll do bi-weekly yoga or yoga once a month, because if growing vegetables makes you feel good, then doing yoga in the place where you grow vegetables is going to make you feel doubly as good. What else? We've done mushroom growing workshops. We do composting workshops. We do organic liquid fertilizer making workshops. Like, I think we delivered over 25 different experiences for our members last year on our BAF sites. So there's a lot of stuff you can do, and also just like getting local knowledge to come to our sites to spread their message as well. So we have a CIC market garden in Bath called Middle Ground Growers. Hamish, their head grower, came down. He did a permaculture workshop for our members. So it's really important to try and support land workers as much as possible, and because we operate on a paid for membership sort of model, then we've got budget to pay these people to come to our site to deliver the educational classes. It's not a volunteering thing. So it's all creating this nice circle of empowerment for people in agriculture and food production.
Yeah, definitely. What sort of, like compared to a usual allotment site, I'm guessing your demographic's pretty different to that.
I hear lots of mixed things. Now, I've only been to one council allotment site, and that was my dad's one in East Sussex. And that was a lot of, I think we call them the old guard. And these are people who may criticise and sort of try and protect certain ways of growing and the judgment. I think it's the judgment is the biggest thing that we don't want to happen on a roots allotment site. No, it doesn't. It puts you off if you're being criticised and told what you do. And if you're a beginner and you've not been doing it for 60 years, then you're going to make mistakes, and that's totally fine. So, I think our demographic is representative of the people who live in the local area to where the allotment site is. So we have families, we have single mums, we have couples, we have single people who just want to come and grow and make new connections, make new friends. We did a survey, and 60% of our members met someone new through the Roots experience. So
like a dating service almost.
Well, a friend dating service, maybe. It'll be interesting to see when the first Roots couple pops up and the first Roots marriage would be, but that would be a lovely thing to know.
But do you have, interestingly, like the kind of old guard, the kind of, maybe we're talking, 55 upwards? Have you got any members of that demographic at all?
We definitely do. We have some members who have a council allotment and they dig on it and they go, well, I want to come and try out the no dig experience.
Oh, really?
And they come to
they're happy to try it and give it a go. That's brilliant.
They are happy. They're open-minded, and it's nice because I feel like Roots as a project does attract people with an open mind and people who do want to talk about system change and they do want to talk about improving things. And it's sort of, when you do bring people together over the common ground of growing and nature, it makes it so much easier to forge those connections rather than bumping into someone in the street and trying to have a conversation about the world. It's like, these are things that happen on our allotment sites, and people get together. They are smiling, they are laughing, they're having a good time. Even if you don't know someone's name, you're still treating them with a level of respect, which for me is like a harking back to what oldie England maybe used to be like, where everyone is just really pleasant to each other. And, we've got 3 rules. Exactly. Yeah, a massive one on the sharing is like, we've got a sharing shelf in the sort of community area, and the top 2 shelves are for sharing produce within the community, and then the bottom shelf goes to a partner that we've partnered up with called Crop Drop, and they take the surplus produce to vulnerable people in the local area, so then they can get free food. This year on our Bath site, we've donated over 5,000 portions of vegetables to that cause. So it's like, and they take a picture of it, they send it to me where the produce goes. So it's like Mercy in Action Pantry, or it goes up to Weston and it supports a meal for vulnerable OAPs. They send me pictures, I share them in the WhatsApp chat. Our members get super hyped that they're doing something that's contributing towards their local community. And then the cycle just improves and improves. And I think this really year cool. we're the latest supplier of produce out of all the allotment sites in the local area. And it just shows how keen our members are to give back. And it's really lovely.
I think it's amazing because it must be the first new allotment site for a lot of years, right? Because
I think
no one's done this previously, apart, since the council obviously set up traditional sites. Yeah. So it really is pioneering.
It is like what we've tried to flip it all on its head and try to give the best service that we possibly can. And like, we always put our members first, and we want to keep them growing. There are private allotment sites in the UK. There are a couple. I think there's one in Northern Ireland. But I don't think anyone has had the skill set of the sort of the combined founding partners to see the vision to want to make this nationwide change of getting as many people growing as possible and going, well, why are there council waiting lists when land is accessible and we can negotiate with private landowners to figure out a better way of doing things and open up that land? So it's just one farmer who was on it beforehand, but now it could be a community of 300, 600 people all benefiting from this private land.
Totally.
It does come with costs, but
did you have any
that's what we
obstacles
bake into our model.
Did you have any obstacles with setting this up as well? Like, was there, like, did you have to get permission from the actual council, or because it's your own land, you could do what you want? Yeah,
exactly. Because we looked into a lot of case law, and we are under the impression that allotments do not require planning permission, and it would be a sad state of affairs if we, the everyday people, had to ask for permission to grow our vegetables in fields now. But we just got quite a big ruling in Bristol a couple of weeks ago where we don't need planning permission to launch our allotment site. So it's refreshing to sort of to know that the law is on our sides, and allotments, no matter how small the amount of agriculture is on the individual level, are still classified as agriculture under the banner of horticulture. So I mean, that we didn't think that was going to be a barrier until we got opposition, and then that sort of elongated the process. But we had no opposition in Bath. The only place that we've really had it has been just outside of Bristol. But we're getting over that now, and we are going to try and sort of find a way to create this vision of every single roots allotment site is going to be a site which can benefit food production and nature. So we do leave 15 to 20% for wildflower meadows and mixed fruit and nut tree orchards and build insect habitats. And we want to dig ponds, and we want to show that food production doesn't have to be this sort of this monoculture mindset. We can create something different. I mean, if we are going to move forward into the future, then we do have to think about how we have these mixed spaces and not just a black and white vision of that is for that is for that. It doesn't make sense, and that's sort of what human beings have been doing for the last 60 years, and we can change the way we approach it.
So what's next then? There'll be some new sites as well?
Oh, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. We've got some interesting conversations happening in Leeds, Sheffield, Gloucester. There's we launched our site in Croydon in early October. Not a great time to launch from a growing perspective, but we still gave our members broad beans, garlic, onion sets, and cover crops to get themselves going. So, and it's like we're trying to work out.
And is that kind of with the Croydon site, is that perhaps one of the more urban sites? Like, because, you talked initially about, Lambeth, where people they didn't have the space to grow, and certainly there was a big waiting list for not many spaces. But have you got plans to kind of go somewhere really urban with this as well?
It would be maybe like 6 years in the future. We could work out, there's a big car park there. How do we turn that into something?
Or even on a roof somewhere?
Yeah, that could also be cool. I don't know what the health and safety is with doing that sort of thing. We have ambitions to go hyper urban, but right now we're focusing on agricultural fields, because that's basically mean if you're launching on an agricultural field, then you don't need a change of use. So that's our main ambition right now, is to find as many agricultural fields as possible that are in or around a city. Now, that poses its own challenges entirely, because what we've learned from this whole process of trying to find land is that there are so many property developers who have bought up virtually all of the green belt. So we'll contact a farmer. We'll go, this looks like a perfect field. We get in contact with the farmer. He goes, sorry, we're not doing anything, boys. I've got options on this field, and if I get those options and they get planning permission, then I'm building houses. And I would say that's 95% of the conversations that we have, and the 5% of the conversations that we manage to get through to the next stage, they then take 8 months to actually come to something, to come to fruition. So we're up against housing property developers who have millions and millions and millions of pounds to offer farmers when we can't match that buying power. Now, if someone wanted to give us all of the money in the world, then we could probably leverage those fields to some degree, but it's a really tough one, and we didn't know when we set out how hard it would be. And the government are looking like they're going to relax greenbelt building in the next 15 to 20 years, and that's worrying for me, because when you look at cities, you go, there is so much brownfield sites in cities, then brownfield sites should be for building, and greenbelt should be for growing, which it always classically has been. Agriculture happens in the countryside or in a green field, not necessarily in a city centre. And trying to improve then public access outside of cities to transport and all of that sort of stuff these are conversations that are starting to come out of what we're doing. And we're starting to realise that there are a lot of societal and governmental issues that maybe we get the flack for, but there are things that we do need to change it to sort of step forward into a more positive future and get more people access to a green space. It's just so important.
Well, I think you guys are doing a great job. And when I first saw Roots Allotments jump up on Instagram, I was just so excited about the concept. And I think it's really unique, it's really useful, and it's really the future of growing for lots of communities and also sharing advice as well, and the sharing culture. And I find that this is something that we really have lost over the years, and something that is really nice to see that we're getting back to as well. So you've obviously got it in Bath. You've got plans for, you said, Leeds as well. Which one's going to open next, and where could listeners find out more as well? And can they sign up for a newsletter so they can get first dibs on some sites?
If they just pop on our website and sign up for our newsletter, you will be able to get information on when we're launching in the future and where we're launching. I don't know right now where our next site will be that we launch. It will the next live site will most probably be Bristol in spring 2024. But there are lots of other conversations going on in the background. Like Will and Christian, they manage the sort of land sourcing side of things, and I'm mainly focused on like community and growing information and making sure that our members are having the best experience possible. Yeah, I've seen a page of about 25 different places, and I'm like, wow, okay, we could get a serious amount of people growing next year, which would be just immense.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ed. The website is Roots Allotment, is that right?
Rootsallotments.com.
Okay,
or
and
you find
also
us on Instagram. Yeah, that's mainly where we're at, and that's where we put a lot of our communications out.
That's where we all learn about new products, new initiatives. It's brilliant. And one day when I'm passing, I hope to visit as well and check out all those plots.
Please do. Like anytime you're in the area, just let me know, and we can go for a little walk around. Preferably, in June, July, when things are starting to grow and the climbing beans are starting to pop up and the sunflowers it's a magical time. And come down and do some yoga with us.
I will, cool. Might also do some digging. Let's see. Or not.
Not on a rich site.
Cool, man. Thank you very much for your time today. And I hope to catch you soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michael.
Hey, no worries. Thanks a lot, dude. The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and generally relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life will now enable you to use those same health and well-being effects at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com. All you need to do is quote the code PLANT24 when ordering. The music for the Plant Based Podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.